Some of the key provisions of the Act are as follows. One is abolition of Zamindari system. Abolition of Zamindari system. So the first system was that the system of Zamindari was abolished. Okay? Whatever the title, rights, and whatever the whatever the ownership that that these zamindars had, they were taken in favor of the state, right? So all the titles were taken back by the state and it was given back to the state. So पहला है that the system of zamindari were no more in existence, because it was realized by the government that look, it is the intermediary which was responsible for all the problem. These intermediaries which came into existence during the British era, so because of that it came into existence, and these intermediaries had no role when it comes to the production, right? Because they were not directly engaged in the production, so they had no interest in the production. One who had an interest in the production, like the farmers, they had no ownership rights. So as a result, what was happening, that the production gets suffered in the country. So the government thought that it is the zamindar, they are the villain. So let us first abolish this system of zamindari altogether. Now, if the system of zamindari was abolished, then there was a provision for the compensation. If the zamindari system was abolished, and if that system was abolished, then there is no need to pay land revenue to the zamindars. The system has been abolished, so there is no such thing to make payment. By abolishing such system, the government removed this intermediary system and brought the people into the direct contact with itself. So now the farmers, they had a direct relations between the farmers and the government, right? So farmers were responsible for paying land revenue directly to the government. So that's the system, the arrangement was now made. Now, if when the government remove this system, then there is an adequate compensation that needs to be provided. Okay? A system of compensation was also there. If the government, if somebody has land and if the government is going to get this land from zamindars, then the government decided to pay a certain amount as a compensation to the zamindars. So this compensation was 8 times of the price of the asset. So जो भी price था, the asset का price, 8 times of that was paid by the government or was decided to pay by the government. So that is the compensation. Besides the compensation, the government also made the provision under this act about the rehabilitation grant, right? Under the rehabilitation grant, the different kinds of support was provided. But first the compensation. Apart from this compensation, which was 8 times of the net asset value, there was also a provision for rehabilitation grant. Rehabilitation grant. देखो rehabilitation grant मतलब आप किसी का business छीन रहे हो, है ना? So it's a fair to give him her the rehabilitation grant, that earlier वो जमींदारी के थ्रू पैसे कमा रहा था, खा पी रहा था, अभी कुछ तो उसको होना चाहिए. So there was a provision made, right? The provision for the rehabilitation grant. This rehabilitation grant was not given to every zamindar. This was given to only those zamindars which were paying certain amount of land revenue to the government. So it was, if they were paying the land revenue more than 10,000 rupees, then such the farmers were or zamindars were entitled to receive this particular grant, rehabilitation grant. And this rehabilitation grant was not equally for everyone. So for the purpose of this rehabilitation grant, for the purpose of this rehabilitation grant, that it was graded, it was graded. So there was a grade made between the farmers were, the jamindars were graded into different categories. And every, different jamindars were entitled to receive the different kind of rehabilitation grants. When it comes to the compensation, there was no division made between the jamindars. But when it comes to the rehabilitation grant, the division was made between the zamindars. So graded they were graded in the range of 1 to 20, and accordingly zamindars could have get the compensation or could have get the rehabilitation grant. Okay. So this is what it was done. Now there is also the cultivation right. Do you remember one word we discussed, that the farmers or the landowners could retain their land in the name of personal cultivation, right? The personal cultivation. So the act also ensured that it ensured that, look, you can take the land of someone, but you cannot take somebody's land who are still in the practice, right? So if somebody is practicing the agriculture, then they should be given some kind of freedom, right? Because even they are the farmers, let's say they are the farmers, so they had some their rights should also be protected with respect to the cultivation. So cultivation right in the name of personal cultivation was maintained. So इनका मतलब है, this means that the land which could be directly cultivated by the individuals or the jamindars, these lands could be retained by the jamindars. They could retain the land. Okay? So their rights over the land was also protected when they were directly engaged in the cultivation. The next is, the act has simplified tenure system. The act simplifies the tenure system. Simplifies the tenure system. The act simplifies the tenure system. Tenure system में क्या था कि इससे पहले, right, the Zamindari system had so many, there are different types of Zamindar, or there were different types of the landowner or land tenure practices in Uttar Pradesh. Yes, of course, when you look at, even though we talk about the big names like Zamindari, हमने तब भी बातें की थी, but then there were many such practices that were there, in the entire country. So they were named by different, they were having different names, and also there were slight differences in the practices. So in Uttar Pradesh also there was 14 kind of land tenure system, right? So 14 kind of land tenure system, it would be difficult to manage them. So initially under the act, when it was passed for the first time, then the 14 land tenure were converted into the 4, right? और 4 लैंड टेन्योर को फिर बाद में 1954 में उसमें अमेंडमेंट करके लैंड टेन्योर सिस्टम 3 टाइप्स ऑफ लैंड टेन्योर सिस्टम में किया गया. सो एट दिस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम द उत्तर प्रदेश हैज 3 मेन लैंड टेन्योर सिस्टम. जिस लैंड टेन्योर सिस्टम को कहते हैं भूमिधर, है ना, भूमिधर, सिरधर और असामी. पहले भूमिधर, सिरधर, असामी एंड आदिवासी, ये 4 तरह के लैंड टेन्योर सिस्टम को रिकॉग्नाइज किया गया. इन 4 तरह के लैंड टेन्योर सिस्टम में हमने 1954 में आदिवासी को इसमें इंक्लूड कर दिया असामी में, और इसीलिए आज अगर हम देखेंगे तो उत्तर प्रदेश में वी हैव अ 3 काइंड ऑफ लैंड टेन्योर सिस्टम.
अब एग्जाम की तैयारी को और बेहतर करने के लिए हमारे चैनल को लाइक, शेयर और सब्सक्राइब करना ना भूलें.